Elena had always believed that life in the bustling heart of the city was predictable and mundane. She navigated through the streets with purpose, her mind occupied with thoughts of work, and her small apartment that felt overwhelmingly empty at times. The noise of honking cars and bustling pedestrians was a constant backdrop to her otherwise routine existence. On this particular evening, however, she found herself stepping into an oasis of luxury, a lavish restaurant known for its exclusive clientele and exquisite cuisine. Little did she know, this seemingly ordinary visit would intertwine her life with forces far beyond her understanding. As she pushed open the heavy glass door, a subtle wave of warmth washed over her, contrasting with the chilly evening air. The interior was adorned with gold accents and rich, dark woods that screamed opulence. Elegant chandeliers cast a warm glow over the patrons, who were engrossed in their conversations, adding to the restaurant's sophisticated atmosphere. Despite the elegance surrounding her, Elena felt out of place in her simple black dress and modest demeanor. Yet she squared her shoulders, determined to enjoy her evening, trusting in her resilience. She made her way to the bar, ordered a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon, and tried to blend in with the upscale crowd. Yet her efforts were futile as she quickly noticed a table nearby where a group of well-dressed men sat, their voices low but filled with an unspoken tension. The air around them crackled with an intensity that made Elena glance over discreetly, curiosity flickering within her. That's when she saw him, Nikolai, the enigmatic figure at the center of it all. Nikolai was captivating, a magnetic presence that effortlessly drew the eyes of those around him despite his apparent aloofness. He appeared to be in his late 30s, with sharp features and dark hair that fell just above his collar. His demeanor radiated confidence, and even from a distance, Elena could sense the power he commanded. The way he held himself spoke of authority, but it was the glint in his deep-set eyes that sent a shiver down her spine. Something about him was both intoxicating and intimidating, a dangerous cocktail that made her heart race against her better judgment. She quickly diverted her gaze, chastising herself for being captivated by someone so clearly out of her league. With each sip of her wine, she felt her nerves unwinding slightly, but the atmosphere around Nikolai was magnetic. It was impossible to ignore his presence. The laughter and light chatter around her faded into background noise, and all she could focus on was the man who seemed to command the entire room without uttering a word. Just then, a commotion erupted at Nikolai's table, drawing her attention once more. A well-built man had entered the restaurant, his demeanor aggressive and brimming with hostility. Whispers spread like wildfire as onlookers exchanged glances, the tension escalating in an instant. Elena watched in awe as Nikolai's expression transformed from relaxed curiosity to one of unnerving calm. He leaned back in his chair, an amused smirk playing on his lips, undeterred by the intrusion. "Everything okay, Boris?" Nikolai's voice was smooth, almost taunting, as he addressed the newcomer, exuding a sense of danger that sent adrenaline coursing through Elena's veins. She could feel the shift in energy, a silent acknowledgement of the power dynamics at play. The man, Boris, sputtered for a moment, seemingly taken aback by Nikolai's composed response. "Just came to remind you of a few obligations," Boris stammered, but the tension in his voice was palpable. It was a thinly veiled threat that sent ripples of anxiety through the room. Elena didn't know much about the implications, but she understood enough to know that this was more than a simple confrontation. Suddenly, Nikolai's gaze flicked toward Elena, his intensity piercing through the crowd. For a brief moment, their eyes locked, and she felt a rush of heat wash over her. It was as if he could see straight through her, analyzing her very soul. Her heart raced, caught between intrigue and instinctual fear. She forced herself to look away, drowning in the reality she had never wanted to confront. "Take care of it," he instructed Boris with a slight wave of his hand, dismissing the man as if he were an annoying fly. The power he wielded was undeniable, and Elena was left with a mix of admiration and trepidation. As the confrontation subsided, she took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure. What was she even doing in a place like this? This world of power and danger was far removed from her own, and she was just a common woman trying to enjoy a meal. Yet Nikolai's presence lingered in her mind, awakening a part of her that craved more than the ordinary. Noticing her unease, the bartender approached her. "You okay? You seem a bit shaken," he said with a concerned tone. Elena forced a smile, trying to downplay her racing thoughts. "I'm fine, just the atmosphere here is a bit intense." "Yeah, it tends to be," he replied, glancing at Nikolai's table. "That's Nikolai Volkov over there. You don't want to mess with him." Her heart dropped at the mention of his name. The rumors she had heard in fleeting conversations suddenly felt all too real, weaving through her mind with alarming clarity. Nikolai Volkov was a name whispered with reverence and fear, and here she was, mere inches away from the man who embodied the stories spoken in hushed tones. As she finished her drink, dread and excitement mingled within her. She had no intention of becoming embroiled in a world she barely understood, yet the call of the unknown tugged at her. Little did she know, her life was on the brink of a seismic shift, a collision with a man who would test her resilience and draw her into the depths of a world where the rules were unwritten and danger lurked at every corner. With one last glance over her shoulder, she caught a glimpse of Nikolai in deep conversation, his demeanor effortlessly charming, yet still commanding. Her pulse quickened, the feeling of inevitability washing over her. But she still didn't know who he truly was. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife, as Elena felt the weight of Nikolai's gaze lingering on her. It was both exhilarating and terrifying. She quickly looked down at her half-empty glass, pretending to be engrossed in the swirling liquid, yet her heart raced as she sensed the shift in the atmosphere around her. The confrontation between Nikolai and Boris had morphed from an unsettling encounter into something much deeper, something that left an indelible mark on her consciousness. As the scene unfolded before her, she could hardly breathe. Boris, having received the cold shoulder from Nikolai, glared at him with a mix of anger and fear. The air crackled with unspoken threats, and the other patrons seemed to hold their breath, waiting for the next move. Elena's instincts screamed at her to leave, to escape the suffocating tension. Yet a part of her felt rooted to her spot, a moth drawn to the flame. Just when she thought the confrontation would escalate, Nikolai's expression changed again, this time softening momentarily as he turned his attention back to the rest of his table, dismissing Boris with a casual wave of his hand. "Take care of your business, Boris. I have my own matters to attend to." The words dripped with a confidence that was equal parts dangerous and alluring, leaving Elena entranced. But it wasn't just his authority that kept her tethered to the scene. It was the sheer magnetism of the man. He was an enigma, a puzzle wrapped in a tailored suit. The air around him pulsed with power, and she felt an inexplicable pull toward him, even as her rational mind screamed at her to run. She had no idea who he truly was or the world he inhabited. Yet she felt as though she was standing on the precipice of something monumental. Suddenly, the moment shattered. Boris, clearly defeated, turned away with a contemptuous snort, exiting the restaurant with a flourish that seemed to echo a warning. The tension in the room dissipated, but the electricity that sparked between Elena and Nikolai lingered, hanging in the air like a promise yet to be fulfilled. She could see him speaking with his companions, laughter and camaraderie returning to the table, but her thoughts were consumed by the encounter and the look he had given her. It wasn't long before she felt a tap on her shoulder, jolting her from her reverie. A waiter stood before her, a polite smile on his face, but a hint of concern in his eyes. "Miss, you have a message." He handed her a crisp envelope, the texture of the paper smooth and expensive beneath her fingers. Confused, she glanced around, uncertain of who had sent it. Her heart raced as she opened the envelope, revealing an invitation written in elegant script. "Join me for a drink. I believe we have much to discuss. N." Her breath caught in her throat. The implications of the invitation sent her mind racing. Why was Nikolai interested in her? Did he know the extent of her accidental witness to the confrontation? The invitation felt like a thread pulling her deeper into a world she had only glimpsed in shadows. For a moment, she considered the weight of her decision. Elena had always prided herself on her independence, her ability to navigate life without entanglements. Yet here she was, on the verge of stepping into an unknown territory that promised danger and intrigue. As she stood at the crossroads of her decision, her heart clashed with her mind. Curiosity urged her forward, while fear held her back. What would it mean to accept this invitation? What kind of conversation could she possibly have with a man like Nikolai? He was the embodiment of power and danger, and the very thought of stepping into his world sent shivers down her spine. Moments passed while she weighed her options, her mind racing through the possibilities. The restaurant, with its luxurious decor and vibrant atmosphere, felt like a bubble that could burst at any moment. The walls seemed to constrict around her, reminding her that this was not her world. But then, a flicker of determination ignited within her. She was no stranger to challenges. The thought of confronting Nikolai, of facing the man who had captivated her so completely, was both terrifying and exhilarating. Maybe this was an opportunity to confront her own fears, to challenge herself in ways she had never imagined. With newfound resolve, she slipped the invitation into her handbag, casting one last glance at Nikolai's table. He was laughing, his deep voice resonating through the room, and for a fleeting moment, their eyes locked again. The connection was electric, as if the space between them pulsed with unspoken words and promises. Elena knew she had to accept the invitation, to discover what lay beneath the surface of the man who had captivated her thoughts. This was no longer about mere curiosity. It was about stepping into a world that could change everything. The thought of what the future held was both frightening and thrilling, but she was ready. As she exited the restaurant, the night air wrapped around her, invigorating and chilling all at once. Every step felt like an awakening, a move toward the unknown. She was no longer just a woman caught in the mundane rhythm of her life. She was about to embark on a journey that would test her resolve and redefine her very existence. Nikolai awaited, and with him, a world she was both afraid to enter and desperately drawn to explore. As she made her way through the city streets, the glow of the streetlights illuminated her path, and she couldn't shake the feeling that something monumental was on the horizon, waiting for her to take a leap of faith. The invitation lingered in Elena's hands, a tangible connection to a world that felt both frightening and alluring. She glanced back at Nikolai, who was deep in conversation with his companions, laughter erupting from his table like a foreign language she was desperate to understand. What could he want to discuss? Her heart pounded as curiosity battled against caution. The weight of her decision hung in the air, thick and suffocating. Finally, she took a deep breath and made her way toward his table, her steps tentative yet resolute. As she approached, the chatter around her faded, focusing her attention solely on Nikolai, whose piercing gaze lifted to meet hers. A flicker of surprise crossed his features before a slow, confident smile spread across his face, and the atmosphere shifted again, crackling with unspoken electricity. "Ah, you accepted my invitation," he said, his voice smooth and inviting, causing a shiver to dance down her spine. "Please, join me." Elena slid into the chair opposite him, acutely aware of the other men at the table. They regarded her with curiosity, their expressions a mix of intrigue and calculation. Yet it was Nikolai's gaze that held her captive, as if he were peeling away her layers, revealing her vulnerabilities one by one. "Would you like another drink?" he asked, the waiter hovering nearby. She nodded, still grappling with the surreal nature of this moment. The waiter departed, leaving them alone in a bubble of intensity. "Before we dive into business, I must say you have quite a presence," Nikolai remarked, his eyes glinting with mischief. "You draw attention without even trying. It's refreshing." Elena's cheeks flushed at the compliment, an unexpected warmth spreading through her. "Thank you. I guess I'm just trying to blend in," she replied, attempting to mask her nervousness with casual banter. "Blending in is overrated," he countered, leaning forward slightly, his demeanor shifting from playful to serious. "Tell me, do you know much about your father's past?" The question caught her off guard, and she instinctively stiffened. "I know he worked in construction, nothing more." "Your father was more than that," Nikolai said, his voice lowering, a hint of intensity threading through his words. "He was respected in our circles, a man of integrity. I knew him well." Elena's heart raced. A connection? Her mind spun with possibilities. "You knew my father? How?" "He was a good man, a loyal friend," Nikolai continued, his tone somber and reflective. "He helped me when I needed it most. It's only right that I repay that debt." The weight of his words settled heavily around them, and Elena felt a mix of confusion and curiosity. "A debt? What do you mean?" Nikolai took a moment, studying her face as if searching for the right words. "When I fell into this life, your father helped me navigate the storm. He taught me the importance of loyalty, of staying true to one's word. That kind of loyalty is hard to come by." His gaze softened, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability beneath his imposing exterior. "And now, I find myself in a position where I wish to honor that." Elena's defenses began to lower, the walls she had built around herself slowly crumbling in the face of his sincerity. "But what does that have to do with me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Nikolai leaned back, crossing his arms, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. "You are connected to him, to me, through blood and shared history. Your father's choices affect you, just as they affect me. There are those in my world who would seek to exploit that connection." His words sent a chill through her. "Exploit? What do you mean?" "There are many who would see you as a pawn," he replied, his voice steady. "But I have no intention of allowing that. I want to protect you." The gravity of his statement hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. For the first time, she recognized the depth of the situation she had stumbled into. Her life, once predictable and mundane, had taken a sharp turn into the unknown. "Protect me?" she echoed, her brow furrowing in confusion. "Why would you do that?" "Because I owe it to your father," he said simply, yet something deeper pulsed beneath his words. "And perhaps because I see something in you that I find worth protecting." Elena's heart raced at his admission, and she found herself leaning closer, captivated by the intensity of his gaze. "What do you see in me?" she breathed, her own defenses crumbling further. "You are stronger than you realize," he answered, his voice low and intense. "You have a fire within you, and it's rare to find someone who can hold their own in any situation. I admire that." A warmth filled her chest at his words, a flicker of something that felt dangerously like attraction. "I've never thought of myself as strong," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper. "Perhaps it's time you did," he replied, his expression softening. "And perhaps it's time I show you how to navigate this world, if you're willing to trust me." The tension swirled between them, a charged current that threatened to pull her under. Elena felt a flicker of uncertainty, a warning bell ringing in her head telling her to be cautious. Yet, the undeniable connection she felt with Nikolai drew her in further. The stakes were higher than she had anticipated, and each moment spent with him propelled her deeper into a web she couldn't yet see. "What do I have to lose?" she asked herself, her voice trembling with both fear and exhilaration. The weight of her decision loomed large, but the desire to know more about this enigmatic man was overpowering. Nikolai's lips curled into a knowing smile, as if he could read her thoughts. "Together, we can face whatever comes next," he said, his gaze unwavering, "but the choice is yours." As she contemplated his offer, Elena felt the world around them fade, leaving only the two of them suspended in this moment, a moment that could change everything. As the weight of Nikolai's words sank into the atmosphere, Elena found herself grappling with the implications of his revelation. The laughter and chatter around them faded, replaced by a tense silence that seemed to envelop their corner of the room. She leaned forward slightly, her curiosity piqued, desperate to understand more. "What do you mean by exploited?" she asked, her voice steadying despite the apprehension swelling within her. Nikolai's demeanor shifted, the playful charm slipping away to reveal a seriousness that made her heart race. There are factions within the Russian Mafia that thrive on chaos and manipulation. They see connections as leverage, and your father's legacy ties you directly to that world. He paused, his gaze unwavering. "If they discover who you are, they may attempt to use you against me. I can't allow that." Elena's mind raced, the picture he painted growing darker with every word. The thought of being a pawn in someone else's game was terrifying, yet she felt a strange thrill coursing through her veins. "So, what do we do?" she asked, surprising herself with her boldness. In that moment, she realized she wasn't just a passive participant in this dangerous world. She wanted to be involved, to protect herself and those she cared about. Nikolai tilted his head, impressed by her sudden shift from fear to determination. "We need to make sure you're safe. I have resources, people who can help us, but you must be willing to trust me." His eyes bore into hers, searching for any hint of hesitation. "I trust you, Nikolai," she replied, the conviction in her voice surprising even herself. "But I want to understand this world. I want to know how to protect myself too." A slow smile crept across his lips, a flicker of admiration lighting his features. "That's a wise decision. Knowledge is power." He leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms. "But this path will not be easy. Are you ready for what lies ahead?" Before she could answer, the atmosphere shifted once again. A group of men entered the restaurant, their presence demanding attention. Elena's instincts kicked in as she observed the tension ripple through the room. Nikolai's eyes narrowed, his expression hardening as he recognized one of the newcomers. "Stay close to me," he instructed, his voice low and urgent. Elena's heart raced as she moved to sit beside him, the protective barrier of his presence both comforting and alarming. She stole a glance at the men, noting their sharp suits and the way they scanned the room with predatory intent. The leader, a tall man with dark hair slicked back, locked eyes with Nikolai, a smirk playing on his lips. The air crackled with unspoken hostility. "Elena, this is Victor," Nikolai said, his tone clipped. "He's a rival from the Volkov family." "Ah, Nikolai," Victor said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Still playing the honorable man, I see. It's amusing, really." He turned his gaze toward Elena, his eyes flickering with interest. "And who is this lovely lady? A new pawn in your little game?" "She's not a pawn, Victor," Nikolai snapped, his protective instincts surging. "She's off limits." Elena stiffened at the underlying threat in Nikolai's words. She had never been in a situation where men spoke of power and territory in such brazen terms, and the intensity of the moment sent shivers down her spine. She could feel Nikolai's tension radiating beside her, the way he subtly shifted his posture as if preparing for confrontation. "Off limits? How quaint," Victor replied, chuckling darkly. "In our world, nothing is off limits. You should know that by now, Nikolai." Elena's heart raced as she processed the implications of their exchange. She glanced at Nikolai, who was maintaining a stoic facade, but she could see the muscles in his jaw clench. It was clear there was more at stake than just their conversation. The air was thick with the potential for violence. "What do you want, Victor?" Nikolai asked, his voice low, a dangerous calm that hinted at the storm brewing beneath the surface. "Nothing much," Victor replied, a sly smile creeping across his face. "Just a friendly reminder that the city isn't as safe as you think it is. You have enemies, Nikolai, and they're closer than you realize." With that, he turned, his entourage following suit, leaving behind the lingering tension that hung like a fog. As the group exited, Elena turned to Nikolai, who remained tense, his blue eyes narrowed in thought. "What did he mean by that?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Nikolai shook his head, the weight of his past evident in the furrow of his brow. "It means they know about us, and they see you as a vulnerability." He paused, taking a deep breath as he seemed to wrestle with his inner turmoil. "I won't let them hurt you, Elena." The sincerity in his voice struck a chord within her, igniting a resolve she hadn't realized was there. "Then let's do something about it. I refuse to be a victim or a pawn in this game." Her words surprised both of them, but there was no turning back now. Nikolai's expression softened, a mix of surprise and admiration washing over his features. "You're stronger than you look," he said quietly, almost to himself. "But this isn't a game. It's dangerous." "I understand that," she replied, her voice steady. "But I want to stand by your side. I don't want to hide away, waiting for something to happen." He studied her for a long moment, as if weighing her words against the potential risks. Finally, a flicker of pride crossed his face. "Very well. But if we're going to do this, I need you to promise me one thing." "What is it?" "Promise me that no matter what happens, you'll trust me. I will protect you." Elena nodded, feeling a surge of determination. "I promise." As they exchanged pledges of trust, she felt the shift in their relationship, an invisible thread weaving them closer together amidst the chaos around them. In that moment, she realized that their journey had only just begun, and she would not back down. With Nikolai by her side, she was ready to confront the darkness that loomed ahead, embracing the danger that came with it. Elena felt the tension in the air thicken, a palpable weight pressing down on her as Victor's smirk widened, the threat implicit in his presence. Her heart raced, not just from fear, but from an unexpected surge of determination. She was no longer merely an observer. She was part of this dangerous game now, and for the first time, she felt the stirrings of power within herself. "What do you want, Victor?" Nikolai's voice cut through the tension, his tone icy and even. Victor leaned forward, his eyes glinting with malice. Just a friendly visit, Nikolai. You know how much I enjoy seeing old friends. He gestured vaguely, dismissing the words as mere pleasantries, but Elena sensed the underlying menace. I thought perhaps you'd like a reminder of what happens when you play it safe in a world like ours. Elena's pulse quickened as she caught Nikolai's subtle shift, the way his jaw tightened and his posture hardened. She had never seen him like this, so fierce, so protective. It was a side of him that sent an intoxicating thrill through her. She could feel the electricity in the air, the unspoken tension between the two men, as if they were gladiators ready to clash. Enough with the games, Victor, Nikolai snapped, his voice low but filled with a simmering rage. You're trespassing. Oh, I'm well aware, Victor replied smoothly, still grinning. But you see, I'm here to discuss a certain legacy, one that you've taken upon yourself to protect. He turned his gaze to Elena, eyes narrowing slightly. And this lovely lady seems to be at the center of it all. Elena's heart sank. The way Victor looked at her made her skin crawl, and she instinctively leaned closer to Nikolai, seeking the safety of his strong presence. Don't you dare speak about her, Nikolai growled, a primal protectiveness in his voice that made Elena's heart flutter and race simultaneously. Victor chuckled softly, his demeanor almost mocking. Isn't it fascinating, Nikolai? You've taken such a liking to her. But tell me, does she know the truth about you? His words hung in the air, and Elena felt a chill run down her spine. What truth was he talking about? Nikolai's eyes darkened, and for the first time, she noticed the flicker of vulnerability behind his stoic facade. Stop playing games with me, Victor. You know nothing about her, and you will not threaten her. Oh, but I do know, Victor continued, his voice dripping with condescension. I know about your past, the darkness that clings to you like a shadow. You think you can shield her from it, but it's only a matter of time before she realizes the monster you really are. Elena's breath caught in her throat. The monster? The words echoed in her mind, and she felt a swell of confusion and concern. She turned to Nikolai, searching his gaze for answers, but what she found was a storm of emotions swirling beneath the surface. Nikolai, she whispered, her voice barely audible. What is he talking about? He hesitated, his eyes searching hers, and in that brief moment, she saw the walls he had built around himself begin to crack. Elena, he said, his voice low, I need you to trust me. I do trust you, she insisted, her heart pounding, but her mind was racing with uncertainty. But I need to understand. What is your past? Who are you, really? Nikolai's expression hardened again, and the flicker of vulnerability faded. This isn't the time for this discussion, he replied, his voice clipped as he turned back to Victor. You want to threaten me? Then you can come at me directly. Leave her out of this. Victor smiled, a cruel twist of his lips that made the hairs on the back of Elena's neck stand up. Oh, but she's already part of this, Nikolai. You brought her into this world, and now she'll bear the consequences of your choices. Elena could feel the gravity of the situation pulling her deeper into a chasm of uncertainty. She had stepped into a realm that felt foreign and dangerous, yet she couldn't shake the connection she felt towards Nikolai. The way he looked at her, the way he fought to protect her, it ignited something inside her that she couldn't ignore. Enough! Nikolai's voice thundered, shifting the atmosphere once again. You underestimate me, Victor, and you underestimate her. Victor raised an eyebrow, feigning amusement. And what are you willing to risk for her, Nikolai? Your empire? Your life? Elena felt her breath hitch at the implications of Victor's words. The stakes were far higher than she could have imagined. What do you mean? She demanded, her voice rising in urgency. What does this have to do with your empire? Everything, Nikolai replied, his eyes fierce with determination. My past is my burden, not hers. I'll protect her at all costs. Victor laughed, the sound echoing ominously in the tense atmosphere. And how far are you willing to go? To what lengths will you go to keep her safe? The challenge hung in the air, and Elena could feel the weight of it pressing down on her. Suddenly, Nikolai leaned closer to her, his voice dropping to a whisper. Elena, listen to me. I need you to stay by my side, no matter what happens. This isn't just about us anymore, it's about survival. Her heart raced at the intensity of his words, and she nodded, feeling a newfound strength swell within her. I won't back down, Nikolai. I want to understand, and I want to fight with you. Their eyes locked, and in that moment, something shifted between them, a connection forged in the fire of uncertainty and danger. Nikolai's expression softened, revealing a sliver of gratitude and admiration. You're stronger than you realize, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Before they could delve deeper into this unexpected moment of vulnerability, Victor interrupted, his tone dripping with sarcasm. How touching, but let's see how long that courage lasts when reality strikes. Elena took a deep breath, steeling herself against the looming confrontation. What do you want, Victor? She asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. He smiled, revealing a glint of malice in his eyes. I want what's rightfully mine, Nikolai, this city, the power you've hoarded. And if I have to go through her to get to you, so be it. Nikolai's expression darkened, and Elena could feel the tension in the air reach a boiling point. You'll never touch her, he vowed, his voice low and fierce. Then I guess we'll see how far you're willing to go to protect her, Victor replied, stepping back and gesturing for his men to follow. The tension crackled as he turned to leave, his parting words echoing ominously. Enjoy your evening, Nikolai. We'll be seeing each other again soon. As Victor and his men exited, the oppressive atmosphere lifted slightly, but the threat lingered like a dark cloud. Elena turned to Nikolai, her heart pounding in her chest. What now? He took a deep breath, the hard edge of his expression softening just a fraction. We need to talk, Elena, about everything. The seriousness in his tone sent a thrill of anticipation coursing through her. She was ready to confront the unknown, to uncover the layers of his past that had shaped him into the man he was today. Together, they would face whatever awaited them, and she realized that her feelings for him had deepened in ways she never thought possible. Let's go somewhere private, she suggested, her voice steady. I want to understand. Nikolai nodded, and as they left the restaurant together, a new chapter of their journey began to unfold, one that would test their resolve, their courage, and ultimately their bond. The night was far from over, and as they stepped into the unknown, Elena felt a flicker of hope burn brightly within her, the hope that together they could navigate the darkness that threatened to engulf them. Elena's heart raced as she felt the weight of Victor's gaze bore into her, the atmosphere thick with unspoken threats. Nikolai stood beside her, a stalwart sentinel, his presence a shield against the encroaching darkness. The way he positioned himself, slightly angled toward her, sent a jolt of reassurance through her. This was no longer merely about survival. It was about loyalty and the bond that had formed between them, unyielding and fierce. Victor, Nikolai said, his voice steady but laced with an underlying current of fury. You've made your point, but I won't let you turn this into a spectacle. If you want to discuss legacies, let's do so without the theatrics. Each word was meticulously chosen, a challenge wrapped in calmness. Elena admired the strength in him, even as her own fears threatened to surface. She glanced at Nikolai, searching for assurance, and found it in the resolute set of his jaw. Ah, but theatrics are part of the game, Nikolai. You should know that better than anyone, Victor replied, his tone dripping with sarcasm. He leaned back, folding his arms with a smug confidence that unnerved Elena. You see, it's not just about legacies. It's about the choices we make and the consequences they bring. You've made your choices, and now it's time to face the music. Elena's pulse quickened as she tried to process the implications of Victor's words. What choices? What consequences? The questions spun in her mind like a cyclone, threatening to drown her in uncertainty. She wanted to scream for Nikolai to explain, to share the burdens he carried, but instead she found her voice caught in her throat. Don't let him get in your head, Nikolai warned, his gaze sharp as he faced Victor. You're trying to sow discord, but all you're doing is revealing your own weakness. Victor chuckled darkly, unfazed. Weakness? My dear Nikolai, I'm merely offering you a glimpse of reality. This world is unforgiving, and you've surrounded yourself with vulnerabilities. This woman, he paused, letting the words linger, she's your greatest vulnerability. Elena felt her breath catch. The truth of Victor's statement echoed in her mind, igniting a fire within her. She was not merely a bystander, she had a stake in this world. The realization hardened her resolve. You think I'm a vulnerability? She challenged, her voice sharper than she intended. You don't know anything about me. Both men turned to her, surprise flickering across Nikolai's features, while Victor's smile broadened. Ah, I see. The little lamb has teeth. I'm not afraid of you, Victor, she declared, her voice steady, surprising even herself. I'm not just here for the ride. I'm here because I choose to be. Nikolai's expression softened, pride mingling with admiration in his gaze. Elena. Let her speak, Victor interrupted, amusement dancing in his eyes. This could be entertaining. Entertaining or not, I'm tired of being in the shadows, Elena continued, drawing strength from Nikolai's unwavering presence. You think you can intimidate me with your threats, but I am not your pawn. I'm a part of this, and I will stand by Nikolai no matter what comes. Nikolai's heart swelled with affection and admiration as he listened to Elena. She was resilient, fierce, and no longer a mere bystander in the dangerous game they were playing. That's right, Elena. Together, we're stronger than any threat, he affirmed, his voice rich with conviction. Victor's demeanor shifted slightly, the mirth fading from his face. "Ha, how touching," he replied, though the edge in his tone betrayed his irritation. But sentimentality won't shield you from the reality of this world. You both are playing with fire, and it will burn. I'd rather play with fire than cower in fear, Elena shot back, her heart pounding with both fear and exhilaration. She felt the tide turning, and with that shift came an unexpected clarity. So, what's your next move, Victor? Are you here to threaten us with words, or do you have something more substantial? Nikolai glanced at her, a mix of surprise and respect in his eyes. It was a testament to her growth, her unwillingness to back down. Elena, we need to be careful. No, she interjected, her voice firm. If we are to face him, we do it together. I will not let you shoulder this alone anymore. Such bravery. Victor's voice dripped with condescension, but Elena could see the flicker of uncertainty behind his bravado. Bravery can be admirable, but it can also be foolish. I suggest you both remember that. Then let's see how courageous you are when it comes down to it, Nikolai retorted, stepping forward, his body tense with anticipation. If you think you can intimidate us, you're mistaken. Elena felt the air crackle with tension, the stakes rising higher. She could feel the urgency thrumming in her veins, and she knew they were on the precipice of a confrontation that would change everything. "What happens next?" she asked, her voice steady as she locked eyes with Nikolai. "Next, we face this together," Nikolai replied, his gaze unwavering. "No more secrets." With that, they turned to Victor, a united front ready to confront the storm that lay ahead. The air was charged with unspoken promises and a shared determination. This was not just about survival. It was about loyalty, courage, and the unwavering bond they were forging in the face of danger. Victor's smile faded, replaced by a calculating look of challenge. "Let's see how far you're willing to go when it matters," he said, his voice low and sinister. "And believe me, it will matter soon." Elena felt the chill of his threat, but she stood tall, her heart beating in sync with Nikolai's. They would face whatever came next side by side, their connection stronger than any fear. The game had only just begun, and they were determined to play it to the end. Elena stood her ground, the fire in her heart igniting a fierce determination. The air felt electric, charged with unspoken words and the weight of Victor's threat looming over them. She could sense Nikolai's tension beside her, but she refused to let fear dictate her actions any longer. "What are you going to do, Victor?" she challenged, the defiance in her voice surprising even herself. "Are you going to continue hiding behind your empty threats, or actually say what you mean?" Victor's expression shifted, his amusement fading into a steely resolve. "You're bold, I'll give you that, but boldness without wisdom is akin to playing with fire without knowing how to control it." He leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. "You need to understand the stakes here, Elena. This isn't just about you and Nikolai. This is a game of power, and if you're not careful, you'll end up as collateral damage." Nikolai's jaw clenched, and he took a step forward, positioning himself protectively between Elena and Victor. "You're mistaken if you think you can intimidate her. Elena is not merely collateral. She's a force to be reckoned with." His voice was deep, resonating with conviction. "And I won't let you use her as a pawn in your twisted game." Elena felt a swell of pride at Nikolai's words, but the reality of Victor's power still loomed large. "What do you want from us, Victor?" she asked, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling around them. "You've made your point. Is this how you prove your strength? By trying to tear us apart?" Victor's lips curled into a smirk, but there was a flicker of something darker behind his eyes. "You misunderstand me, Elena. I'm not trying to tear you apart. I'm revealing the truth. The world we inhabit is ruthless, and emotions are a liability. You think you can stand by Nikolai? But what happens when the tides turn, when loyalty is tested?" Elena's heart raced, and she could feel the tension in the room thickening. She exchanged a glance with Nikolai, who was unwavering in his stance. "We'll face whatever comes together," she asserted, her voice rising above the tension. "I'm not afraid of you or your threats. I choose to stand by Nikolai, and nothing you say will change that." Victor chuckled, a sound devoid of humor. Such courage, but courage can be a double-edged sword. He straightened, his demeanor shifting to something more menacing. "You're entering a world where decisions have dire consequences. You may think your bond is strong now, but it will be tested in ways you cannot imagine." "Then let it be tested," Nikolai said, his voice unwavering. I trust Elena with my life, and I will protect her at all costs. You can threaten us all you want, but you will never break our bond." Victor's eyes narrowed, and for a moment the room fell into a tense silence. It felt as if the air had thickened, the unspoken challenge hanging between them like a loaded gun. Elena could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her, but she stood firm, refusing to back down. "Very well," Victor finally said, his tone shifting slightly. "If you wish to declare your loyalty, then prepare for the consequences. I will not play the villain in your story. You will face the trials ahead, and only then will you understand the true nature of loyalty in this world." With those words, Victor turned away, his presence receding as he walked back into the shadows from which he had emerged. The tension in the room began to dissipate, but Elena could still feel the echoes of his threat lingering in the air. As the door closed behind him, she let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Nikolai turned to her, his expression a mixture of pride and concern. "Elena, you were incredible," he murmured, stepping closer. "You stood your ground against him. I knew you had it in you, but to see you embrace it like that, it's inspiring." Elena felt a warmth spread through her at his words. "I couldn't have done it without you, Nikolai. Your strength gave me the courage to speak up." She took a step closer, their bodies almost touching, the tension between them shifting from danger to something more intimate. "I want you to know that whatever happens next, we'll face it together," he said, his voice low and sincere. "I'm not just a mafia boss. I'm a man who values loyalty and love. You've become an integral part of my life, and I will do everything to protect you." Elena's heart swelled at his declaration. "I want to be a part of this world, Nikolai. I want to stand by you, not just as your partner, but as your equal." The strength of her words surprised even her, but she meant every one of them. Nikolai's eyes softened, and he reached out to cup her face in his hand. "Together, we'll redefine what it means to be strong. We'll navigate this world on our own terms." In that moment, Elena felt a sense of clarity wash over her. The challenges they faced were formidable, but they were no longer alone. Their bond had evolved beyond mere survival. It was now built on mutual respect and unwavering trust. As they stood together in the fading light, Elena could not help but feel a sense of hope. The future was uncertain, fraught with challenges yet to come, but she was ready to face it all with Nikolai by her side. They had weathered the storm, and now, together, they would forge a path through the darkness of the Mafia world, a path illuminated by their shared strength and love. With a renewed sense of purpose, Elena intertwined her fingers with Nikolai's, ready to face whatever awaited them, knowing that together they were unstoppable.